Okay, good morning. Let's begin with a word of prayer. Father, we give you thanks for assuring us that the pit does not await us, that we are not looking to suffer eternally outside of your presence. We thank you for the gift, the gracious gift of forgiveness that you bestow upon us upon our repentance. Thank you for your Son. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's begin with the Gospel of Matthew. Oh, I should set this up a little bit. My apologies. It's still the summer of 28 AD. And you're going to be in a place called Gergesa in the Decapolis. Now, I'll explain all of that as we get into it. But the Decapolis is on the east side of the Sea of Galilee. It's one of the 10 cities called the Decapolis, and this is where they're located. It's a Gentile location.
So the Decapolis is a region?
The Decapolis was 10 cities of Greek cities or Gentile cities, and the regions in which they were found. Okay. It's basically the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee, and then to the south of the Sea of Galilee.
So we might consider it like a county?
Yes.
Okay.
You could do that. Okay, we're going to start, as I said, in the book of Matthew, chapter 8. And we'll start at verse 28 and go through 34.
When Jesus arrived on the other side of the lake, in the region of the Gadarenes, two men who were possessed by demons met him. They lived in a cemetery and were so violent that no one could go through that area. They began screaming at him, "Why are you interfering with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torture us before God's appointed time?" There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding in the distance. So the demons begged, "If you cast us out, send us into that herd of pigs." "All right, go," Jesus commanded them. So the demons came out of the men and entered the pigs, and the whole herd plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town, telling everyone what happened to the demon-possessed men. Then the entire town came out to meet Jesus, but they begged him to go away and leave them alone.
Well, now this has got to throw all sorts of stuff at you. What did you notice that was either unusual or that you want to know more about? Everything. Okay, well let's go with something specific first.
Okay, so first off, for Jesus to tell him to go get into a pig was the unclean. That was
correct.
So that was something that the Jewish people would have nothing to do with whatsoever.
Right.
But when they go into the pigs and the pigs go kill themselves, now you just destroyed some farmer's livelihood.
A number of people with a large herd.
Yeah, and I mean, they were not without value.
Correct.
No doubt that's why the locals were upset.
Okay.
But the whole thing, we don't think about demons a lot here within our modern society.
Okay.
We think about disease, we think about mental illness, we think about a lot of things, but we don't attribute it to demons. And in those days, I suspect that it was fairly common.
It was absolutely common. They didn't know anything about bacteria and stuff like that. It was very common. Demons were everything.
I still think we have demons, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
Okay, the question was, we still have demons, don't we? And because you can't deal with that. So yeah, the likelihood is we still have demons. If there are angels, there are still demons. We know there are still angels. Okay? Anything else about this story that strikes you?
Because they sent him away.
Why would they send him away?
Yeah.
And I think Ken tried to answer that by saying they ruined their financial situation there. Okay?
Because if he did that, what's he going to do next?
Yeah.
How are we going to pay our taxes?
Oh, yeah.
Well, but so realistically, asking someone to leave as opposed to demanding he restore their wealth.
Yeah,
That's pretty civilized.
that's much more civilized than one would expect.
Yes.
Yes, first pay up, then you can leave, or we'll kill you now, hang you, whatever. Anything else that strikes you?
Well, again, the demons basically confront Jesus. They recognize who he is.
Ah, yes. The demons recognize who he is. And they recognize him as the Son of God. Now, he hasn't said this before. Okay?
Yeah.
So now we have him being recognized as the Son of God. Okay, very good. Anything else strike you?
Well, with all the stories, when you have a demon, usually they know who Jesus is.
Isn't that odd?
Yeah.
Wonder why?
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe there's some aura that they see or sense these, or they're looking in the spiritual realm or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't deny him.
No, they don't dare.
They don't dare.
You know, you can't say he isn't the way. You can lie about him like they did way back when they said he's casting out stuff by Beelzebub. But yeah, they recognize him. But they recognize him as the Son of God. Now that is very interesting. Good. Anything else strike you? Okay, but I want you to note that this is the Gospel of Matthew. Okay? The Gospel of Matthew had the shortest version this time. Now we'll go to the earlier Gospel, the Gospel of Mark, and see that Matthew left out a bunch of stuff. Mark chapter 5.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, now it starts with verse 1 and goes to verse 20. So I'll stop you periodically, okay?
They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes.
Yes.
And when he had stepped out of the boat, immediately a man out of the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. He lived among the tombs, and no one could restrain him any more, even with a chain. For he had often been restrained with shackles and chains, but the chains were wrenched apart, and the shackles he broke to pieces, and no one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs on the mountains he was always howling and bruising himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and bowed down before him, and he shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For he had said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What's your name?" And he replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many."
Let's stop for a moment there. Anything now striking you different from, remember, he's looking at Mark. He's got Mark in front of him there. And he's changing things. Anything you notice, any of the changes that he's made that is of interest to
Well,
you?
in Matthew, there were 2 men.
Good.
Here, there's just the
Here,
one.
there's just the one.
We also have a location.
Okay, among the Gerasenes in
Yeah.
the tombs, right?
Yeah.
Good. Anything else striking you as different?
Well, they talk about the strength of this guy.
Wow. This guy makes Hercules look like a little guy.
And he was obviously injuring himself,
Yes.
which still happens today.
He
First
probably
they,
he probably tripped and stumbled and hurt himself, right?
Yeah.
Falling in the bathtub or something.
My version says cutting himself with sharp stones. So here we have, cutting.
Or gashing. That would be simply because he's in amongst the sharp stones. I don't think he took a sharp stone and purposely cut himself. But he would fall down, I'm sure, running across, or running with bare feet would certainly do that as well. Okay?
Interesting that he recognized Jesus.
Yes! He's actually recognizing Jesus, and he calls him something different now. This is Matthew's emphasis. Remember, Matthew's writing to Jews, and he's very concerned about the old Torah. Okay? So he calls him Jesus, Son of the Most High God. instead of just you are the Son of God. So
Well,
go ahead.
so they were not Jews, so they probably were polytheistic.
Good.
And so which God?
Which God? Thank you. Correct. Very nice. Okay, anything else strike you as different from we saw in Mark and in Matthew? Matthew will change some of this stuff as you saw.
Well, his name. And we figure out there's a lot of demons there, not a single.
Yes, now we've got his name. His name is Legion because there are many, not just one. Oh, goody. I got a whole bunch of demons in me. Let's find out then. Let's keep going. Okay. And he began to implore him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now there was a large herd of swine feeding nearby on the mountain. The demons implored him, saying, "Send us into the swine so that we may enter them." Jesus gave them permission. And coming out, the unclean spirits entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, about 2,000 of them, and they were drowned in the sea. Their herdsmen ran away and reported it to the city and in the country, and the people came to see what it was that had happened. Okay, what's different? What do you notice?
Okay, so you've got 2,000 swine.
2,000.
That's a large herd.
Yes, it is. It's a combined herd.
Probably, yeah, multiple people owned them.
Absolutely.
And then, so for the swine to kill themselves would have been unexpected on my part. We understand, get rid of the demons, okay, kill the swine, and now you've gotten rid of the demons.
No,
But,
go ahead.
well, but that's simply the host that they're in at the time. Where did they go from there? We don't know.
Yeah, there's a question. What's the importance or the significance of the fact that the demon-possessed swine drowned in the lake? There's a reason for that. We talked a bit about it last week.
Why did they have to drown 2,000?
Well, it just happened to be 2,000, and they all drove them in. They drove themselves. The demons drove them into the lake, which is weird, as we'll find out. If you remember what I said last week about the lake? Water?
Well, it was scary to them.
No, it's worse than scary. It's the place of evil.
Okay, yeah.
Remember that? Okay. So the swine are driven in to this place of evil, and there they die. Now, wonder what that means. We'll get to that later. Anything else there that is of interest? Okay, then let's pick it up there where they came to Jesus.
So I'm just wondering about okay, so you have the dirty animal, and you have these evil spirits that have entered them.
Yes.
And the dirty animal represents something unclean to start with.
Yes.
And so I'm just wondering, I mean, to me it's just logical. Where would you put the unclean spirits? You put them in the unclean animal.
That does seem a real nice place to put them. Why not just let them go into the other Gentiles, though? Just let all the townspeople. Why did they choose the swine?
Yeah, why are they unclean?
Well, we know why they're unclean.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, to the Jews, they were always an unclean animal.
But these pigs belong to the Gentiles.
Oh yes, these are all Gentile-owned pigs, because the Jews wouldn't raise them.
Right.
We're on the east side of the lake now.
Okay.
We're in the Decapolis, the Gentile area. And sure enough, out there, they have herds of swine because pig tastes good. Bacon, ham,
Sure.
Yeah.
pork chops.
So the other thing is, had they wanted to infect other Gentiles, Jesus probably would have stopped them.
Bingo. I agree with you there. He would allow them to enter the swine.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was going to allow them to invade the town. But we don't know, but we're just kind of guessing. Okay? Anything else strike you?
I think it was pigs are cute.
Say what again?
I think little pigs are cute.
Of course they are. They're just little piggies. Okay?
Well, and again, the demons ask him to send them into the herd rather than just out.
Right.
Says he began to implore him earnestly not to send them out of the country. There's
Correct.
a large herd, and they implored him, saying, "Send us into the swine, so that we may enter them." I don't know
If
what
they're
they wanted.
released into the ethereal, what's that?
The ether.
Ether, thank you. Or either one, I'm just kidding. Then the spirit is a wandering spirit, and it doesn't feel as happy. Or as it wants a location. It wants someone to invest. Okay? And rather than be floaty, it would rather go into a pig than be a floaty. Would be my reading of this. I personally don't know. But the idea of just floating around doesn't really do it.
And I just always felt that when the demons went into the pigs, they drove the pigs crazy, and
Yes.
that's why they ran off.
That's what I believe too. Unless we come up with something else. Okay? All right, anything else strike you so far? All right. Then let's pick it, I don't know what verse we're at there, where it says they came to Jesus.
Yeah, so we'll start at verse 15 then.
Thank you.
They came to Jesus and saw the demoniac sitting there, clothed and in his right mind, and the very man who had the legion, and they were afraid. Those who had seen what had happened to the demoniac and the swine reported it. Then they began to beg Jesus to leave their neighborhood. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed by demons begged him that he might be with him. But Jesus refused and said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and what mercy he has shown you." And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone was amazed.
Okay, now this obviously was not in Matthew, or Matthew declined to report it, but this is Mark. What happened here? This is different.
Well, to me, so at this time, when Jesus did a miracle, he always told people, don't tell anybody.
That's right. I'm telling you.
Now he's saying, tell everybody. Well, he's talking to people who are not within the Jewish community.
Correct. That's correct.
And so he's saying, tell everybody what God's done for you. Well, that would be something that probably wouldn't get back to the Jews because they didn't interact.
Well, they interacted, but not that much. And yes,
Yeah.
they wouldn't talk religion if they could avoid it, I'm sure. Good. So he's actually, because the Gentiles have less contact with this God, they need to get started on this. Mm-hmm. So he's actually telling them, maybe, I need you to start talking about this while I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm surprised Jesus didn't ask him to go with him. When the guy wanted to go with him, and
Why would that be a surprise? Come on, you're right.
Yeah.
You'd think, hey, I want to be your disciple. Let me follow you. All the others are following you. Let me.
Yeah,
and he said, no.
He's always telling people to give up, everything and come with me.
Which I asked the question is, why didn't you go to Africa and proclaim it as a missionary? Because he didn't call you to do that. He called you to stay here and be a person of God, didn't he?
So when you look at this also, so we don't know this man's story very much.
Nope.
Go to your family. Did his family need him for support?
Oh, definitely.
Tell your friends and neighbors, tell everybody that he's going to be an evangelist.
Yes, exactly. Yes, sir.
Well, the other thing why I think he was chosen was because he was in a Jewish community, and he was one of them.
Yes.
And when they looked at him, they saw themselves. Where if he had chosen to go with, or rather, Jesus had chosen him to go with him, Jesus would not have necessarily had a representative of the people for the people.
Right. He would have been challenged just on his Jewishness.
Yeah.
Whereas this way, it's someone who was part of your family who's telling you what happened. And telling you that this particular God was helping him, had mercy on him, on us. And that makes a difference.
And all of the people around would have known he had been in that situation.
Oh,
so
yes.
it was quite a testimony to come back
Yes.
and suddenly be in your right mind and proclaiming, praising God. And
Yeah. Praising the Jewish God,
yeah.
not your Gentile gods. Okay, it's important. Okay, good. Anything else strike you? All right, then let's go to Luke and see what he did with this. Luke 8:26 and following. And I'll start out with the easy part. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. So we know it's on the east side now. And when he came onto the land, he was met by a man from the city who was possessed with demons, and who had not put on any clothing for a long time, and was not living in a house, but in the tombs. Seeing Jesus, he cried out and fell before him, and said in a loud voice, "What business do we have with each other, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For it had seized him many times, and he was bound with chains and shackles and kept under guard. And yet he would break his bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They were imploring him not to command them to go away into the abyss. Now I'm going to stop there because there's all sorts of stuff here. Okay? The material you're looking at is in Luke and Matthew, but not in Mark. There was a source called Quelle, German Q, which Matthew and Luke have in common, but Mark does not. Normally that would say this would be that, but it's not. Because Matthew had the short version. And it's what's in Mark and Luke that's interesting. So here we go. Luke. What happened here that's different? First of all, it's opposite Galilee.
Well, the other thing,
Yes.
and we hadn't mentioned it earlier, but if this guy lived in the tombs, stayed in the tombs,
Yes.
that was the unclean of the unclean place to be.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And I mean, even today, look at, we're afraid of cemeteries, right? I mean, some of us,
You
you know,
don't want to
Halloween.
walk on someone else's grave.
yeah. And so, I mean, in those days, it had to have been more severe than today.
It was.
And so, to me, living in the tombs is also, what should I say, a giant marker
Okay.
telling you, where's this guy at?
Okay, I agree. They're putting him in the unclean of the unclean of the unclean. This is a real problem here.
Yeah.
Okay? And he has approached Jesus and is calling him Son of the Most High God. Anything else strike you here?
Well, here they're talking about him being kept under guard,
Guard.
and they hadn't mentioned that earlier.
Correct?
They did mention the bonds that had been broken.
Correct? And the guard may have been early in the time, and then later on they just stopped it. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, the guard might have been afraid too.
I would have been.
Yeah.
Anybody who can break a chain, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not going to want to be too near them without something really heavy in the way of armament. Okay, anything else strike you here?
Well, it doesn't sound like there were other people. It sounds just like this one person, and the legion was because there were so many demons.
Right. We're back to one person with many demons. Notice it drove him into the desert. The desert's a very special place. You have the wilderness where you can have the goats and stuff that survive, but you get into the desert and nothing survives out there. Okay? It drove him into a waterless place, the desert. Go ahead.
In mine, the word they use instead of desert is abyss.
Abyss. Well, the abyss is a different thing. Okay? We'll have to get to that part in a moment, but for the moment, let's just look at it. That it drove him into the desert. Him. The demons drove him into the desert, which is the Syrian desert just to the east of this area. As you come up over the eastern side of the Galilee, you get into an area that's fairly nice, and then you hit the desert. And it's the desert.
So just rocks and sand.
Sand, rocks, just nothing grows.
Yep.
Not enough water. Okay? So he was apparently doing some of that. And then it's finally, don't send us into the abyss. The abyss is where spirits are sent to be tortured, or it's a place of torture for them. It would be a place of nothingness, kind of like being out there.
I guess I think of it as like our vision of hell.
Right. We think of it as the pit, where you're in the abyss. But here it's more out there, which is why the other one says, we don't want to be out there, we'd rather be in the pigs. Don't send us out there into the abyss. Okay? Okay, someone want to pick it up then on something like 30, I'm guessing, 31. Now there was a herd. Luke 8, 30 something.
30 is what's your name?
Okay, 31, 32. 31.
Okay, they begged him not to,
Okay.
to order them to go back into the abyss.
Okay, go ahead.
Now there on the hillside a large herd of swine was feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned.
Okay, hold right where you are. So again, same thing. We don't really want to go to the abyss thing. Just let's go into these pigs. I give you permission. Drove them nuts. They went rushing down into the water and died in the lake.
Yeah.
Drowned.
I suspect that the demons probably didn't anticipate what the reaction of the pigs was going to be.
I think you're right.
Think it too.
In fact, I'm sure you're right. Okay, please continue.
Darn.
Bad choice.
When the swine herd saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then the people came out to see what had happened, and when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to lead them, for they were seized with great fear. So he had got into the boat and returned.
Okay, stop. Just hold that thought where you are. Okay, notice anything? Any question about anything?
Well, the one question that always in this story that always amazes me is there is no mention of recompense for the farmers that are raising these pigs. I mean, that's a valuable crop,
Yeah.
you know, and all of a sudden you've got these 2,000 pigs running into the lake, and that's going to create a tremendous mess.
Huge economic impasse.
Yeah, and the lake, which, you know,
Oh.
water was valuable, all of a sudden it's contaminated with all these dead pigs.
Good point.
And I don't understand, you know, that's so untypical of what I would have thought Jesus would have done.
Interesting.
So there's a part of the story we don't have.
Okay, so for example, that the pigs ran down was because they were obviously driven down by the demons. Oops, they didn't expect that, and they drowned in the water. Jesus didn't expect that either. That'd be my guess. He didn't know what they would do, or maybe he did. I don't know, but I don't seem to think that the demons. Actually, maybe he did. Now that I think about it, but they did rush down into the lake, polluting it, and they didn't fire an environmental impact statement first, so we know there's a...
They couldn't even have a big barbecue afterwards.
Yeah, it's ruined it. Or a luau even. So, okay, anything else there?
Well, so if all of these people in the region were afraid because of what happened,
What were they afraid of? Why does it say that when they found the man sitting at Jesus' feet, talking to him in dry mind, they were gripped with great fear? Why?
maybe it was because he was now like them, and so therefore they could be like him. I don't know.
I'm not asking you to know. I'm asking you to think about it.
But
Why would there be fear there? Go ahead, you had another question. I'm sorry.
But that also, in my mind, leaves a lot of credibility to Jesus asking him to go home and tell everybody what happened.
Good reason.
Yeah.
let's not let the story go bad here.
Yes.
They'll tell us strange things.
Because
Why?
this story could turn into something that it's not.
Good. Yes, sir.
Well, the other thing that jumps off the page at me at that point is the fact that these are illiterate people. They don't understand diseases, they don't understand cleanliness.
Correct.
They've said known this person probably most of his life. They fear him for their lives.
Yes.
All of a sudden here, when they approach Jesus, here he is sitting at Jesus' feet and is back to what we would call normal.
Right.
And they have no way, nothing to relate it to. And they're, to them it's probably like the boogeyman came out of somewhere, and how did he get cured? How did this man do this?
Yeah, how did he do this?
Yeah, should we, to me it's be like, I don't know, I can't even relate to it.
Yeah, I can't relate to it.
Yeah.
So you've got suddenly this powerful individual, this one who has authority, this godlike qualities, and to them maybe they was acting like a god for the non-Jews, the Gentiles. You want him hanging around you knowing that gods are capricious? The way, if you remember the Greek gods, for example, very capricious. They did whatever they wanted, and if they messed you up, that's fine with them. You want them hanging around you? No, thank you. Just go away and leave us alone, and we'll get on with our business. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe that's why they were filled with fear. Okay? Anyway, I don't know. All right, and finish it up, please.
Okay. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him.
Okay. Anything else? Anything here strike you?
Can you imagine the man that had lived that way for who knows how long, and that change, all of a sudden he's healed?
No, I can't imagine that.
I mean, yeah, clearly he was tormented and now he's not. It's like curing cancer, snapping fingers or something. I mean, worse than that probably, but...
Oh, instant, yeah. Oh, well, so anyway, what we got here then, anything else?
Obviously, if he's supposed to go and tell, obviously he would have recollection of
Yep. Well,
what had been going on in his mind, and he had no control. And,
Good point.
You know,
and now, what he would have been recollecting what had happened in the process, and could now tell. That's very good. Okay, I will tell you, this fellow becomes very important later, although you've never heard. Okay, and I'll explain that later. But he's very important. You'll see him later. Okay, in that case, let me kind of set this up a little for you. Okay, I'm going to bring it in here. The Sea of Galilee is here. Capernaum. They were driven off course by the storm, if you recall. And they ended up landing down here. Okay, down here is the area called the Gerizim. It's there's a Syrian desert, and right up bumps into Gergesa. Right here. South of that are some caves to this day. It's archaeological. Okay, and there's a very steep area here where the hillside is a long, steep decline. Okay, any question on that? And if you go up from Gergesa, up here, you run into some major road that runs along this way. Here. Okay? So, this is up here through and then you're going to see this town down here too. I should probably point that out too, now that I look about it, because we'll talk to it later. Never mind. Okay. So you know where we are. We're on the east side of Galilee. Here's Galilee over here. We're on this side. He's come down here. We've driven off course. They got out. They were encountering this fellow. Okay? And we're going to go through the story. After the storm, Jesus decided to stay the night where they were. While the men reorganized the boat, ate, and rested. So they anchored the boat just north of the town of Gergesa. Here. Notice it's straight across from the other part where the park is here. Okay? They were directly east across the lake from Magdala, and in the light of the sunset, Jesus came ashore. As he did, two men, one of whom was naked, came running straight at Jesus, yelling at the top of their voices. The first one stopped, but the naked one kept coming. That's right, as you remember, one gospel had two, and the other ones had one. This is how I handled that.
Can we speculate one of them was a caretaker?
Yes, or the guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very possible. But I don't know that the gospel that indicated there were two indicated that they were not both possessed.
Right.
But
But we also had witnesses. Here's one of your witnesses.
Thank you. So somebody stopped, who was dressed, in my opinion, and came forward, the naked one. He lived in the cliff-side caves that were so often used as tombs, and they ran crazy through the hills. Tombs were often in caves, almost always in caves. Okay? Either ones you made or ones that were natural. The locals had tried often to keep the naked one decent by putting clothes on him, but he ripped them off. He never bathed, and his hair was long and wild. He ran straight to Jesus, calling him Lord and Son of God. And he fell down at Jesus' feet in the position, listen, of a servant before his master. As though I am an evil one, I'm a demon, you are my master. This could be interpreted wrong, couldn't it? Okay, it had been before, it could be again. Jesus did not want the disciples confused. Jesus was not the leader of evil spirits, the Lord of demons, the son of Satan. So Jesus ordered the evil spirit to leave the man. The demon assumed that Jesus was sending him into the abyss, where all evil spirits would go on Judgment Day, a place of torment, hell to them. And knowing that he must obey the Son of God, but not wanting to go into the abyss yet, he tried to negotiate a better deal. Does that sound reasonable? Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, very appropriate. Quickly, he begged Jesus to send them into the huge herd of pigs grazing on a steep slope in the evening light. And this is what that slopey area was like. The weather has changed somewhat since then. But yes, I'm sure it was a little greener, yeah.
The only example in my mind is an old grandchild of farming. There are diseases, I saw this kind of action in dogs. And my grandfather in Leavenworth had a small farm to take the place of his big farm in Nebraska. He lost in the Depression. And one summer in Leavenworth, it got ungodly hot for that particular time of the year. Well, anyway, the dogs got a disease of the brain from this.
Okay.
What they did, the pigs' action reminds me of this. They ran in circles.
Oh,
Okay, and then dropped dead. And, or, one example was he had in those days, the materials that hoses were made of deteriorated rapidly. So he had a concrete box made out of concrete blocks that he kept water in. And then he put his hoses in that water to keep them soft, pliable. Well, unlike today, he left the rebar that he used to strengthen it, some of it sticking out. And the dogs literally ran head first into those spikes.
Ow.
My point being only that kind of thing where these spirits entered these pigs. People say, well, why did they do it? I'm thinking maybe perhaps it affected their brain so bad.
Good.
They were looking for release.
That makes sense. It makes sense to me. They were crazy.
Yeah.
Anything would be better than what they had. And this is for poor pigs, the cute little pigs.
The other thing is, this is a herd, and when a herd stampedes, you don't go your own way, you follow the herd.
And these are not pigs, by the way, they're hogs. These are big creatures, okay? But yes, you're going to follow the herd. Never mind. I almost said something else. Okay. Jesus was open to the suggestion and asked the demon its name. If he gets its name, he has control over it. That's why everybody kept trying to get Jesus' name, so they could control of Jesus. Or God, back in the time of Isaac, Jacob. Jacob would try to get a hold of the angel's name when he wrestled with him, so that he would then have control over the spirit. It answered, Legion, there are hundreds of us. We are very strong. Now listen carefully. Just like the Roman legion ex Fretensis, made up of 6,000 troops, that controlled the area and whose banner flag bears the symbol of a wild pig. A Roman legion. Does that strike anybody as something of interest?
We know how much they all love the Romans.
Well, it showed God-
This is a Gentile area.
Yeah, but it showed Jesus symbolically his power over Rome.
Good. But what's interesting is that the Romans' symbol is the pig. This legion that is centered over here. And that's, I like what you did. You chuckled. Thank you. Very good. Jesus saw the humor in the situation. How dare I say that? That's blasphemous. How could Jesus see humor in anything? Sending a bunch of unclean spirits to invade a bunch of unclean animals in an unclean land and ruled by an unclean people. Jesus smiled and agreed. Enter the pigs. It's a fitting place for you. This is my interpretation. You don't have to think of Jesus having kind of a little sense of humor. But when the legion of demons entered the huge herd of pigs, it drove even those unclean animals mad. In great fear, they stampeded down the slope and into the lake. They drowned in the evil lake, remember I mentioned that, and thereby the demons went into the abyss anyway. And Jesus, I'm sorry, I think he laughed out loud. I think that's funny. You people have trouble with that.
No.
Come on, look
No,
at the irony in this.
I think there's no question that Jesus was sarcastic.
I think so.
We know that.
We've seen it. I just think it was funny. Unclean. Ah, you're there anyway. Ah, sorry. Any question, thought, or comment?
Well, I still come back to the fact that, it's one thing to do this, but we're never, again, I don't mean to dwell on it, but it would make me feel better if there had been some plan in this to give back to the farmer
Right.
some income, because that's, I think how hard farmers work.
It's a whole town worth of people
Yeah.
that make up this herd of
Yeah.
hogs. So, yeah, there's a real problem. But there is a plan, but that's not part of it, as you'll see in a moment. The man had settled down immediately. What a terrible burden he had endured. Imagine all of that horror inside your head. He was given something to wear and fed, and spent the night near Jesus learning the truth. He gave his life over to Jesus and wanted to become a follower. But Jesus had a special mission for him. He was to go back to his city of Gergesa, From there he should go throughout the region of the Decapolis, telling everyone about the Hebrew God and how through Jesus God had helped him. Now I'll show you the Decapolis. This is the region of the Decapolis. There's the Sea of Galilee here. All of this region off to the east is the Decapolis. Down here, not quite to Perea, but this is the Decapolis, the 10 cities. He was to go out amongst this people and tell them about the Hebrew God, as opposed to, it's like an early Paul. Not about their many gods, but about the true God. That was why he was not allowed to follow him. He had a special mission for him, in my opinion. We will encounter him later, in my opinion. And you will be surprised.
Yeah, the name just now sunk into my head. Decapolis, Dec, 10. 10 cities.
Right.
That's
10
the name.
cities.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little slow.
No, that's okay. We don't all hurry you along. Nicely done. Okay, here we go. The Gentiles of the area could expect no mercy from the Messiah of Israel. What? In the Jewish perspective, when the Messiah came, he would rule over all. And these folks had not been on good terms, the Gentiles and these people. And so they could expect to be second-class citizens under the Jews. They did not look forward to this Jewish Messiah. They could expect no mercy from him. They could expect only to be conquered. So in the morning, when the townspeople arrived and concluded that Jesus was the Messiah of Israel, they were terrified at the prospect, so they begged Jesus to leave. Okay? Now to explain that. They did not understand that Jesus, as the Messiah, would be merciful to Gentiles. They should have remembered that it was only 5 miles away at Aphek that King Ahab of Israel defeated and captured the enemy of Israel, Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, or Syria. And you'll find that in 1 Kings 20. It talks about that incident. Ben-Hadad had no reason to expect anything but death. Yet he took a chance and received mercy. It would be up to the freedman to help the Gentiles understand this, that the Messiah of the Jewish people would bring mercy to the Gentiles. That is something they could not have anticipated. It was his job, this is his mission, is to go among them. Again, remember, Jesus did things in certain areas to remind them of their history and of God's action in history as well. It was nearby here where that event occurred with Ben-Hadad. Okay? And so he's saying, remember, he received mercy from the leader of Israel, and the Messiah will bring mercy to you as well. And his job is to explain that to his people.
We know that the Gentiles had some understanding of Jewish faith. We learned that from the woman of the well.
Yes.
And so, to me, to have some understanding is sometimes worse than not knowing anything.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
So in this, I see Jesus putting a lot of that right.
Yeah, this is his beginning process into the Gentile world here in this way. Now these are Gentile. Now remember, the Samaritans were close to Jews in a number of ways, but in this case, this is completely into the Gentile world. And he is telling them the Messiah will have mercy on you, and he's not going to bring you trouble, he's going to bring you mercy. Because they had expected nothing but trouble. Okay, any question now? Any further thoughts or comments?
I guess I just think, tell that to the Gentiles in the Jerusalem area today. You know, it continues.
It will never end until it ends. Okay? So Jesus and the disciples got on the boat and sailed north for the village of Bethsaida, which, as I said, they're going to leave here from Gergesa, and they're going to travel up here to the north to the village of Bethsaida, which is south of the capital, Bethsaida, Julius. Okay? After all, they were fishing, right? Anything else? Any questions, thought, or comments? Okay, next week, we're going to look at the healing power of Jesus.